Good evening. Welcome to another show by Silent Majority. This one is from the man's perspective. We had a brave sister come on to talk about toxic mother-in-laws. We have Brother Imdad here. He's changed position now. He's not an expert. He's my main guest, front and center. So he'll be coming on and talking about his own personal family life and how he deals with his mother and his wife. Before we start, I'd like to thank my main sponsor, Ahyaan Estate. If you have a property that you want to let or you're looking to rent a property, reach out to them. They're safe, reliable, and trustworthy. If you need any mediation or you've got any family issues, reach out to Simplex Coaching. They'll be sure to help you and help you resolve your problems. Right, without further ado, Brother Imdad, you've come on and you usually come and give your expert analysis on other people's matters. This, however, is a change for you. You've come on and you're going to talk directly about personal things and matters that are happening within your own family. So thank you very much for coming on. I think it's very brave of you. And I think it's about time you took the main seat, the hot seat, as they say. I do want to put a disclaimer on. Brother Imdad will be speaking about his mother, who lives with him. So he will be diplomatic. But the reason he's agreed to come on is to benefit our community. So we appreciate you as Silent Majority, and I'm sure the audience will as well. So the floor is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulina al-Kareem. So my story is that I'm Bengali from same region as most Bengalis in this country. And my wife, however, is Palestinian Syrian. And she was born and brought up in Damascus, which alhamdulillah is now free from tyranny, inshallah. So I married my wife 16, 17 years ago and brought her over this country. So you have to remember she's from a completely different world. Even though we have the same religion, our cultures are extremely different. You know, most people think our Muslim is everything the same. The cultures are extremely different. Historically, politically, us, food, everything is different. So I am the fourth of 5 children. My eldest brothers and I have a sister as well. They're also married. And when I brought my wife over, initially we had our own flat. Then we moved back to my mum's house. And there's been various going, leaving, coming back. I moved country and all that sort of stuff. So we've had various stints, if you like, at my mum's house for reasons, you know, my brothers left, my mum was alone, we had to come and look after her. Now, my mum is a unique character. I remember when I was growing up and I used to go to my friend's house, Bengali houses, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, how come their mums aren't like my mum? I used to think all mums were like my mum. But then I used to go to my friend's house in Bengali's house. I think, no, my mum is a special case. And then you hear stories and like, okay, my mum's a special case. But growing up, you realize there are actually many mums like my mum. And manifests itself upon her children. And especially when new women come to the house. So we're a family of 4 boys. So each of those 4 boys brought in 4 women. The other women, there were 3 other Bengali women. My wife was the first non-Bengali woman. And there were fireworks. Not dissimilar to the fireworks you heard on the previous show about this issue. And it has been difficult. As a daughter-in-law, it has been difficult upon them. And as sons, it has been very difficult upon us. Now, as mentioned, you have to remember, this is our mum. And we know what Islam says about our mothers. We know what our culture says about our mothers. And you're torn in between 2 worlds. Now, your mum is blood. Your wife generally is not. And this is where the emotional strings are pulled. And that's why I've come on this show, because it's unfortunately, it's always the women speaking about their experiences. But where are the men to talk about or to stand up and to stand for justice?
Thank you very much, Brother Amjad. So you're essentially saying the man is the glue, and if the glue isn't strong or stiff enough, then everything breaks apart.
Exactly.
It's worth noting to the audience that you've been married for, alhamdulillah, successfully over 20 years.
And 17,
17, mashallah. So 17 years or so. So you've had the ups and downs.
Absolutely.
Within any culture,
Yeah.
and I said this in my last episode, they inevitably, some people raise their eyebrows when I said this, inevitably there's the mother and the wife, there's bound to be clashes invariably, clashes within an own race culture.
Yeah.
But when you add a woman from a different race or a different culture, does that heighten things or does that mitigate things?
It definitely heightens things, because remember, they always say that women are like cats, and it's very true. Like, I've got a cat.
Right.
When you introduce
Tread
another
carefully.
cat, sorry,
Tread carefully.
tread carefully.
Uh-huh.
When you bring another cat into a household where the cat is already there,
Right.
you have to deal with that very carefully. Now, I'm not saying all women are like this.
What's the analogy behind you saying they're cats? What's the reasoning?
This is what I'm saying. This is what is in the common knowledge in
What?
general society.
Why are they cats?
Well, I'm not saying, I don't know why, but that's what you hear. I don't know if they still use that term, but they definitely used that when I was growing up.
So,
Like that. So, when they,
I'm trying to understand, like cats, what is it that they
because
do?
when two cats get into the same space,
Mhm.
fights break out.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks. Yeah.
they're watching who's this new cat in town or what have you. So this woman, you remember, from a mother-in-law perspective, this woman has come for my son. I have to. I don't know. It's not all women are like this. And generally, when you hear about, for example, we're in England, you don't generally hear that from English women, that the English mother-in-law. You don't really hear that. So it's a cultural issue. It is definitely existence in the subcontinent, but also my wife, from her family members, also on their side of the equation, there are also mums like that. So there is something, I don't know, there's some issue culturally with mothers on our part of the world.
Essentially, we're tight knit. You could say that, in Britain and in the West, they're very distant, if I'm using euphemism, but we're more tight knit, and
Maybe.
each of them they come with their own problems.
Yeah.
Before you go on, you mentioned, and again, forgive me, I am, again, treading carefully here. You said your mother is a special case. How so?
Well, I've never met another woman like my mom.
Can you elaborate?
I've got aunties, I'm in my 40s.
Yeah.
I've never met anyone like my mum. My sister-in-laws, they say the same. But from what I hear about your show, there are other women like my mum.
Wow.
And that is a common, you do hear about the mother-in-laws as a commonality in subcontinent culture. There's so many. How many films are there about the mother-in-law? So there is something that we have in our culture where, unfortunately, some mother-in-laws think that when women come into the house, they're there to be enslaved, manipulated. They're there to serve me, my son. And I think people who are watching this show, they may agree with that.
What's different with your particular dynamics is it's not a Bengali girl, a Sylheti girl that was born here.
Yeah.
You've got a Syrian girl, again foreign, but wasn't born here.
Yeah.
How did she? So obviously, from your perspective, in observing your other brothers' wives and how your mother interacted with them, was there a massive change in discourse when dealing with your wife? Or was it carte blanche, she was equally effective with all of them?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. She, when my other bubbies were in the house,
Uh-huh.
my dad was around.
Okay.
Rahmatullah alayhi. He
Allah
passed
yarham.
away
Okay.
20 years ago. So there was a difference in that perspective.
Sure.
My mother was younger. There were other members in the household.
Yeah.
And now it's just me. And there is no one else. My dad isn't around. My
Right.
mum is older.
Yeah.
She is more rigid. And also my wife is she's Palestinian Syrian, so they have a bit of fire as well. So when you put fire under two fireworks,
Right.
both of them will go off.
Mm.
So I'm living in the house, I'm working from home. I have to always be conscious of things breaking out. Like I'm upstairs on the 3rd floor.
Mm.
And I'm listening sometimes, things are heating up. The stove, gas has been in. I have to sometimes I just leave, come downstairs. I just try and calm things down before it goes off, because it has blown off many a time.
Can you share? I have to ask this, sorry.
Some crazy things, frying pans not frying pans being thrown around.
Sorry, I'm not laughing. It's just, I'm visualizing it.
My wife using the frying pan that my mum got.
Oh, that's
Why
the
is she
problem.
using my frying pan?
Okay.
Why this? And oh man, some of the stuff I'm like, is this for real?
And just for the purpose of the audience, your mother is an elderly
Yeah,
immigrant.
yeah.
How strong is her English?
So her English is better than most Bengali women.
You know, I can attest to that because I've met her, mashallah.
You met her,
But
Yeah.
for the audience's purposes, this is an anomaly.
that's right.
You know, she does speak.
She does
really
speak
good English.
Yeah. That's also a problem because she would speak to my wife in translated Bangla English. And now my wife would she said this, I was, yeah, but if you said that in Bangla, it doesn't sound as bad. You know, our Sylheti Bangla is quite rough and harsh and straight to the point type of
I'd say it's
language.
very nice.
Yeah, but in terms of, we don't beat around the bush.
No, we don't know. We use a lot of sarcasm.
We got a lot of sarcasm and that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. And then okay, it doesn't sound as bad in Bangla, but when you so her English, my mum's English is not good. My wife's English is not good. Lost in translation. Who's the translator? It's me. And man, it is extremely mentally draining. Times when things have happened. My wife has said something. My mum is showing me, look, this is what your wife like. My mum wanting me to get angry against my wife. Food time. My mum will cook something. My wife will cook something. My mum will want me to eat her food and not my wife's food. And there's been times when you're like, is this am I in a drama series here? If I'm not joking, if you did a drama series around my household, I would be #1 on Netflix. So it is so difficult. And what the issue is, women generally, they need attention. It's not a bad thing. It's just the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them. Now, either you're going to give the attention or I'm going to get attention. Do you see? Now, that attention is grabbed. Some people think they need to grab that attention. And then as soon as something happening, fireworks go off, my mum will start calling siblings. This is what happened, blah, blah, blah. Siblings will start calling. And it goes into civil war, man. And I'm not joking, and I'm caught in the crossfires. And now, from what I hear, not only from your podcast, but obviously from living life, men are manipulated to appease their mothers many times. They feel like they have to take sides. Do I take my mom's side, the woman who raised me, who I'm her, half of me is her, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said Jannah is at their feet and they will use all of this? Or do I take my wife's side? And men are torn in between the two. Unfortunately, a lot of men might be manipulated to take their mum's side. Some might take their wife's side and against their mum. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's a beautiful ayah in the Quran. Most people do not know. Most of the imams do not speak about. But it's a powerful, apt ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, بعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط. O you who believe, be people of justice. شهداء لله. Witnesses for Allah. Now here's the important point. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Even if it's against yourselves, even if saying the truth, doing right, standing upon justice is going to put you in material direct detriment, do the right thing. Importantly, Allah goes on. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ. Even your parents. أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ. And your aqrabin, your relatives. Stand for justice. كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين إن يكن فقيرا أو غنيا. This is beautiful as well. If they were rich or poor. Rich or poor. You know, in our culture, we have this thing about zat.
Which means caste.
Which means caste,
Yeah,
which is caste. But also, we raise in stature the rich, the affluent, even if they did it by selling alcohol, having restaurants that sold alcohol, sold haram, but he's made his money. He's doing well. Look at his house, look at his car. Doesn't matter how he got it. غنيا أو فقيرا, even if he's rich or poor. But the poor one, at least loser, waste man. Don't give them any value. غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما. Allah is first between them. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to us in the Quran. كونوا قوامين بالقسط. Stand for justice. Even against your parents, yourself, your family members, against the rich, stand for justice. Now this is inside the home. A lot of times people don't see this. People don't see who you really are. The man in the home, the woman in the home, the child is in the home. Maybe not the child, but the person in the home is the real person. This is where, as I say, heroes are made. If you look to the Muslim world, we are bereft of heroes. The Muslim world is full of people, and unfortunately, males, not men, that are easily manipulated. Because the heroes were not made in the home. For some multiple reasons. This is one of those reasons. You don't raise your boys as boys. Raise your boys to be men, to be heroes in the future. And now this is a situation where men are demasculinated. They're made to feel weak. They might show their bravado and all that sort of stuff when they step out the door. But if they cannot stand for justice, even against their mum, which is very difficult. Me coming on this show is very difficult. But I feel that I have to do that for the men out there, telling them, stand for justice as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you to do, even though that be against your own parents.
Very beautifully put, and alhamdulillah, you've used the mother of all sources, so it's irrefutable. The key takeaways that I've had from listening to that is justice should underpin everything that we do. And And I think because you've had empirical experience in situations whereby yours is a bit more special case. I'm not saying your mother's a special case. I'm just saying your wife is of a different ethnic background. So there's communication barriers. But I think essentially, if you strip that away, like you said, I'll stick to your analogy, cats, two cats in one house. And if I were to summarize, you've moved in and out, but unfortunately you were the man that came back home. It's bizarre that, and just from my analysis, that your three siblings, I'm not having to dig at them, this is me just purely being objective. Your three siblings whom have married three other women from their same culture have not decided to move in, which would be much more easier, perhaps in terms of communication and cultural synergy. Whereas you, with a wife from another culture, has taken that leap of faith or taken the plunge, whichever way you look at it, and moved in. So your situation is more difficult than would be in contrast to your brother, whom has a Bengali wife. It would make life much easier.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question to you is this. So, I mean, I'd probably press to get more experience, more personal anecdotal experience from you. But the man is in a mental crisis here because, like you said, it's not bipartisan. They pick sides. The mother will use manipulation. You're of me, how dare you? Slurs that mulga and all the rest of it. And the woman who say, you're not a man, why did you marry me if you can't take care of me? So on and so forth. And from my personal experiences, I've seen it go both ways, where they've picked sides. And in picking sides, almost more often than not, unjustly, they've lost out. And I'll give you an example and an anecdote without mentioning names. So there's times where women will coming and they're coming headstrong, and they say, first, we're not going to live with your mother. That's fine, that's their right. And they take their husband away. Well, take is not the right word. That would be me being biased. So the husband agrees to give them a house. Yeah. But what happens then is, yes, they've moved out, but you see the sons neglect in servicing their parents. So what I've seen 3 or 4 occasions where the wife doesn't take the husband away. The wife calls her chit, their right to have another separate accommodation. But the husband is so engrossed or smitten with his wife, he completely neglects or does a disservice to his parents. And I do laugh at this, not at their misery, but just the irony of things. So you've completely sacrificed or neglected your parents in order to service your wife wholeheartedly, and you still end up in divorce. And usually the parents' complaints are, I rarely see my son. That's one side. In contrast, it goes the other way, whereby, the son is that's why mother, how dare you?
Yeah.
Nothing can be said about the mother. She's the queen. Yeah. You're one of a dozen. I can replace you. Yeah. My mother is irreplaceable. And they go completely the other way. And it does the woman, because the woman is in love. It's hard for a woman to leave a man, even though divorce are on the rise. For a woman to leave the man, more often than not, women are decent people and they have morals. It's a very hard choice for them to make, even though this country and the legal system facilitates for it and almost promotes it to some degree, one would argue. So that son sides with the parents and completely neglects the wife, and that wife sustains extreme mental harm, psychological harm, which then translates into disdain and acrimony, especially when kids are involved. And then that small family is torn apart. Essentially, whichever way you look at it, our society has been destroyed. Whichever way. And I think one of the things that you said is keeping justice, but that's easier said than done, because there are people in the middle, men in the middle, husbands in the middle, that want to placate both sides and be diplomatic and just, but at their own mental expense. Because even though they're being just, and you're a married man of many years, the parties that you're trying to rule over or law over, govern over, they sometimes won't see the justice being served. So they will be upset with you. And that must have taken a mental toll on you.
Absolutely. Many a time, my wife will say, why don't you say something? Why don't you show? The woman wants to see, as all women, their man is standing up for them. Why do women like the tall, strong, muscular guys? Because they can protect them. They also want you to see you being able to protect her in front of your own mum. Now, this is where it's extremely difficult, because you want to be a man. You want to also, at the same time, be a good son. What do you do? What do you choose? Being a man, a bravado, brave for your wife, but also being a respectful, obedient son. How can you be both? The key is, as I said, what the ayah tells us to do is be right. Not being brave, not being the man for your wife or the son for your mother, but doing the right thing. And that is so, so difficult. Believe me, it's mentally draining. Daily. Mentally draining. These games are daily, multiple times. As I said, I could make a daily, I'll make a lot of money. I might even do that from this series. It's mentally draining. What do I do? Always do what Allah told you to do. And my wife would say, I'll say something to her. Why don't you scream? Why don't you, but what's that going to achieve? Calm down. I will speak to my mum at the right time. I come down, I say to my wife, okay, this is finished. Okay, I understand. You have to understand her valid claims of abuse. That's correct. How do you deal with that? By being respectful to your mum and being loving to your wife. Every situation is different, but you have to deal with it with qist, as Allah said, with justice, with without any anger.
Good point.
And don't deal with it at the time.
So take emotion out of it.
Take emotion out of it, calm the situation down, let both parties calm down, and then try and deal with it. Now, my mum, I always say to my wife, my mum is not going to change. She's not going to change. And the funny thing is, right, my youngest brother was living with my mum, with his wife. He divorced his Bengali wife, got married again to a Moroccan girl. And then they left. So my mum was left at home. So the other three siblings were like, what do we do? I didn't want to move back home. I know I've been there. I was like, no, I don't want to go back. It was my wife who said, let's go back home.
Wow.
And I always say that no one wanted to come. My wife said, come back, not even me.
You know, to me, and maybe women will shriek at this, but that tells me that your wife is from a very good family.
She's from a very traditional Arabic family.
I'd say good family.
Yeah.
Because how many women would say, let's go back home? How many women do you know?
Right.
How many women?
Especially none of the other women said that.
There you are. So
But that means nothing. And it's just, you know, there's an ayah in Quran.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the story about Harut wa Marut.
Yes.
What was the magic that they were teaching? يفرق بين المرء وزوجه. Dividing between the man and his wife.
Dangerous.
Shaitan. I don't know if you know that hadith when he said, what did you do?
Yeah.
I split a man and a woman up. Come and sit next to me. This is where not families get destroyed. This is where society gets destroyed. In the home. So in Syria, we have seen an overthrow of a tyrannical government. And inshallah, we are going to see beautiful things from there. People are talking about what institutions, who's going to take this place, who's going to take that position, and so on, so and so forth. But the most important thing to fix, and I've mentioned this before on your show, is the most important institution in the whole of society, which is the family. Because in the family, you will find the future of that society. That's how that society will flourish. That's where the flowers are grown. And that's where we have to raise men and women that are going to lead the world in the future.
Inshallah.
And that's why these type of toxic households destroy the whole of society.
Profound. Just to add to Syria, may Allah grant them success. I think also to repel the evil actors with malign intentions,
Absolutely.
and hopefully they're destroyed as well. I mean, I've got two questions for you, one at a time. The first one is to do with a man. So, what is the common form of abuse thrown at a man? And that ranges from mental health issues, from the extreme stress, being stuck in the middle. What is the common form of abuse that's thrown at a man? And that's from both, from the wife and the mother. Can you just touch on that?
One word. It's in Bangla. Ami tumar ma.
Okay, right.
That hits you in the heart. For those that don't speak Bangla, I'm your mum. When your mum says that, it hits you in the roots of your heart. You come back to the ayah. Kunu qawwamina bil qist. Stand for justice. And this is what Allah is saying. Fallahu awla bihima. Yes, you are my mum. Take a breath. These are the tight situations. Shaitan is on your back right now. She's your mum. That's your wife. That's Shaitan. These are the moments that matter. Allah, now you have to have Allah. Allah is saying, Allahu awla bihima. Yes, you're my mum. Yes, you're my wife. But Allah is my Rabb.
And from the wife's side?
And from the wife's side, she would say, like my wife has said to me a few times. This is not in instances with my mum. Like, أنت أخذتني أمانة. She would say, you took me as a trust.
Yeah.
That's another hits you there. I did take her from her father. I swore to protect her. She is under my protection. I'm her man. I'm her husband. My mum is doing injustice upon her, playing games with her, manipulating her, trying to make me an enemy to her. فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَى بِهِمَا. Allah is awla, more important than both of them from any other party in the equation. And not only that, if we believe, as we say in our salah in every rak'ah, Allahu Akbar, we say that we don't believe that at all. And what do I mean by that? We say Allah is the greatest, but we actually think our handiwork is greater. Well, yeah, but Allah told me not to do this, but if I don't do this, this will happen. Yeah, Allah is the greatest, but if I let my mum do that to my wife, how is going to make that me look? Yeah, Allah is the greatest, but if my wife says that to my mum, I have to stand up for Allahu Akbar. First thing, do what Allah said. Allahu Akbar, what do I mean by that? Allah would make the situation better if you do what He told you to do. You're not the master of anything. You don't control anything. Man, subhanAllah, I've seen that time and time and time again. When you do what Allah told you, Allah said, okay, you did what I told you. Now, I will do what I promised you. And Allah said in the Quran, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever fears Allah, Allah will find him a way out from his situation. we say that, and I say this with a lot of hurt in my heart. We don't believe that. Because if we believe that, we would do whatever Allah says, even as Allah said in the ayah, go back to the ayah, وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ, even if you're against yourself, even if for what you see in the reality, if I do this, what Allah told me to do is going to make things worse, I'm not going to do it. But Allah is saying, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever fears Allah, I will get you out of that situation. If it doesn't appear as such, it appears no that obeying Allah is going to put me into more trouble.
Beautiful point. So justice supersedes, and enacting justice is paramount. In terms of, just I picked up off you said you did a lot of preemption. So you're on your third floor and you hear things are boiling up, brewing up. What advice would you give to men in terms of preemption? Because there's been just after the drink's been spilt, so to speak. But how do we prevent the drink from spilling?
Prevention is better than cure, as you know.
Yeah.
The Prophet ﷺ, you know, in baseball, right?
I don't watch it, but yeah.
I don't watch baseball. I don't play baseball. You know, we played that when we were kids. But in baseball, it's a nice example. You have the ball, but you also have the glove. Yeah, you've seen baseball. You got the ball, you got that big glove, right? Yeah. It's the same in relationships with people. You can't just throw the ball. You have to also have the glove. So when you speak, like my mum, you try and think about how am I going to say something, do something that would improve the situation. Not I have to say something right there and then. No. Be goal-driven. Be wise. How am I going to do something? Don't do it necessarily in a situation that is going to improve this situation. Now, with my mum, I might say to her, why do you keep on doing that?
Can you give us an example?
Like,
she's probably going to watch this, isn't she?
She's probably going to watch this. I know family members watch this.
Yeah.
So I don't, you know, there's times when my mum will say, look at how your wife's left this. This is psychological. These psychological skills. Look at that. It's dirty. Blah, 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 blah.
What dishes?
Dishes or loads of different stuff. Look how she left that there. And that sort of stuff. It plays on your mind because my mum knows my son because I raised him to be a clean person. Mm-hmm. You have to be wary of shaitan. Always. Shaitan is here right now. He's with you when you go home, when you're in your car, when you're on your bed, when you wake up in the morning. Everywhere. Be wary of that, what we call in Arabic, hamazatu shay. Okay? Khalas. Sometimes you will say, well, look, let me ask my wife. Sometimes I've done things wrong. Yeah, why did my wife do that? Something that hurt my mum. I will ask her, call my wife. I said, what happened here? Sometimes I will incorrectly accuse her. And I've made that mistake a few times. The best thing is to ask her, what happened there? As we know, there's always two sides of the story. She said this. Judge it. Is that in line with what my mum does? Is that in line with what my wife does? And then you may say to her, look, I might say to my wife, in the catcher with the glove, give the glove first. Look, softness. The Prophet ﷺ told us how to speak to people in a nice way. Take them by the arm, not in front of other people. Soft words, especially with your wife, with women. Kindness, with love. Maybe it's better not to do that. You know, my mum says, it's for your better. Because I'm not saying that for me. She's going to have a go at you. It's not going to be good for you. Next time, maybe just don't do that. And in the nicest possible way.
That's very fair. And what would you tell your mum when she constantly says, oh, your wife does this, look what she's doing here? How do you respond to your mum? Because it's easy to communicate with your wife, right?
With my mum, I've sort of got to the point. She's been doing this for 60 plus years, 70 years. my mum is not going to change. She's probably going to get worse. Now, I haven't got the answer yet. What can I do? Because my mum, it's like, okay, you say something to her and then she'll do it again the next day. Like there's times my wife has taken her out, taken her shopping, bought stuff for her, blah, blah, blah. In the evening, she's done something really nasty to my wife. My wife will say to her, I just took her shopping. I just took her here and there. And then it's like, why did you leave all that stuff in the sink for? The foods, why is there all this smell? Why you keep on talking like she would be talking to her mum? I can't pray. I'm talking to someone on the phone and you're screaming. And I can hear, I'm upstairs, I can hear boom, boom, let me quickly go downstairs and put a stop to this fire before it explodes.
So what you're saying is you're managing your mother. You're not actually. You're not.
You're going to change her.
Discipline's a strong word for this, but you're not actually politely telling her.
The best thing is that my wife is going to be much more responsive to try and manage the situation than my mum. My mum is going to do that. She's not going to stop. She is not going to stop.
So she's stuck in her ways.
Absolutely.
If I can say obstinate.
And it's getting worse.
It's getting worse.
Because she's getting older.
The nuclear option of moving out is obviously not on the cards for you.
Well, that's the plan, yeah.
Wow.
But we have to then, what's going to happen to her?
Yeah, who takes care of your mother?
Even family members come and say, look, you need to move out.
So who takes care of your mother then?
Well, we're going to have to deal with that amongst the sons, how that happens. Yeah.
You comfortable with that? I mean, I'm sorry.
We're going to have to deal with that because the reality, look, this is going to not only destroy a marriage, it will destroy minds. This is psychologically long-term detrimental damage. You know, my mum will be screaming and shouting in Bangla. My wife doesn't know what she's saying. I can understand everything my mum is saying, and it's just constant in the background.
Well, she doesn't stop.
My mum knows it's psychologically draining.
Have they tried to get on?
Oh, there's been time before, but this relationship has got to a point where, even though it may be amicable, before that it was better, but even when there's times like today, my wife took my mum out. I know that's not going to last though.
You're waiting for it to.
It's not off. Waiting. It will.
Okay. So you saying
always, and I can't. If I go away for a day, 2 days, I'm very worried that something will happen.
Wow. And you do travel for work?
Yeah, I do travel for work. Yeah.
So you're saying it's going to a point where it's point of no return?
It is. Yeah.
Are you also advocating that you shouldn't live with your mother? And we're talking not from your perspective, but generally speaking here.
Look, I'm not saying all mums are like my mum. And generally, back home, what we used to do is you make an extension. We put them in the same household. Like I've got other aunties that are lovely with their in-laws, and their in-laws have no problem. If you do have a mother-in-law that you know, or mother that you know is going to be a problem, you shouldn't bring a woman into that household. You should think about, look, this might not end well.
Most of the people in this country are of that mindset, particularly from the Indian subcontinent. But the elephant in the room that no one seems to be giving me an explanation for is, what happens to your ailing mother, your old mother? What happens to her? Did you just forget about her?
Absolutely. I know many aunties, nannies that are living happily with their in-laws. So I'm not saying that's a common occurrence. Don't think, like a lot of girls think this. All mothers are like that. No, all mothers are not like that. Some are. Fair enough, if the guy knows his mother is like that, you're going to have to think carefully about bringing a woman under your trust and protection into a household where fireworks are going to be let off. That's not going to help you. If you have kids, it's not going to be beneficial to anyone. You have to manage that. And as I said, I've got other siblings. We're going to have to all work together to look after our mother. We don't want to go down the road that we see in English society, in Western society, where we send our moms off to a care home. No way.
That's an abomination in my
That's an
opinion.
absolute abomination. So we have to work collaboratively amongst the children, amongst the sons, daughters, to manage the situation.
Final few words. What would your advice be? Obviously, I wish you the very best in your own relationships, and I commend you. I think very brave of you to come on and speak about your own matters to benefit our communities and society. What would your advice be to men, perhaps younger than you, less wiser than you, and more hot-blooded?
Yeah.
What would you say to them? Because, as I said earlier on, they're usually picking sides.
Yeah.
To their detriment and to the party's detriment as well. So what would if there was 3-4 pieces of advice you'd give them, what would it be?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The first one, as Allah said, Allahu awla bihima. You have your mother, you have your wife. Above you and who you will answer to in the end and who controls the matter is Allah. Do the right thing, number one. Number two, do not take a decision on action in the heat of the fire. The first thing you need to do is to cool the fire down. Blow the fire out. Don't add to the fire. Calm the situation down. Number three, what happened? Two sides of the story. Number four, prevention is better than cure. How am I going to prevent this happening again in the future?
Just quickly, prevention, does that mean moving out?
No, don't make drastic situations. Your mother, as I said, is going to be more difficult to amend. What can we, because the husband and the wife are now a team, what can we do to try and prevent that from happening? Don't always, we need to move out. That's the easy option, not necessarily the best.
I mean, people do, not in their defense, but against them rather, they're only in their mother's or dad's hotel because they can't afford to move out. And when they save up or amass a certain amount of wealth, then they move out. So it's maybe a sort of parking, they park there for 2-3 years. So it's just dealing with the mother-in-law and their daughter-in-law respectively for those 2-3 years, because their exit plan is their exit plan anyway. They all move out, they just can't afford to. So you're living under one's queen's house already.
Yeah.
So the wife in that instance needs to bite her tongue. You're under someone else's roof.
Think long term.
Yeah.
That also is maybe an incorrect. They're your parents, regardless of money, regardless of your making.
Am I wrong in saying that though? Am I wrong in saying that?
That is a common occurrence. When we make money, we live up. What as you asked me, what you can do with your mum?
Yeah.
What you're going to do with your mum is the first priority.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing that the ayah said, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever fears Allah, Allah will find out who's the controller of the movement of every atom in the universe. Will find your way out. And then Allah says, وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. And will give him a sustenance from a place he never, ever expected. We don't believe, I'm saying this with a hard heart, we don't really believe that. Quran is just something to read in the salah. To hear, he's got a beautiful recitation. The Quran is a message from Allah the Khaliq. Take note. And this is another important point I want to say. Our imams have a huge responsibility that they're failing on in this situation. They do not talk about this at all. All they talk about how to recite the Quran properly, what I should name my son, how many sunnahs you should pray a day, how much Quran you should be reading. This is a real problem in our communities, but the imams are silent. My mum watches these Bengali channels and these imams daily. She reads Quran more than I do. She prays more than I do. Because this is what you're told Islam is. But our Imams do not, they're silent about this issue. All they say is your mother's, your father. Yes, that is true. But what about also Allah told in the Quran, إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزل الله من الكتاب إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزل الله من البينات والهدى من بعد ما بيناه للناس في الكتاب أولئك يلعنهم الله ويلعنهم اللاعنون. This is a very powerful ayah. Allah says, those who hide what I have revealed from the bayinat, from the clarifications and the guidance in my book, I curse them and the people curse them. My mum's dad was an imam, big imam in Bangladesh. She watches these imams all day. And this is not only my mum. I heard the other guy on the show talking about how one of the person that did injustice against him just came back from Hajj. And then he's going about doing all these evil acts. It's very common. People will now go on Hajj, Umrah all the time, big beard, read Quran, always in the masjid. Look at what happened in their household. Look at what they're doing. Why is there a disconnect? Why do our imams not speak about this? Because they're scared. Because the people who pay their wages are these same people. So there's a big responsibility and a big crime committed by our religious community as well. Why is it people like me that are coming on this show speaking about these issues when it should also be them? They should also be raising the problems in their community.
Thank you very much, Brother Imdad. Inshallah, everyone takes heed. I've definitely taken heed. Again, I think you're extremely courageous, and give your mother salam. If she does watch this, hopefully she's not upset with me either. I'm not sure.
She'll be upset with me, but
okay. Hopefully she understands.
Inshallah.
Right. Profound. The words that were espoused were profound. Inshallah, we can all take heed and benefit. If you are in a situation where there is turmoil between your mother and your wife, I think please watch this episode or share it with someone that is going through this. And inshallah, if it does benefit or gives some sort of steer or advice or guidance to help benefit, because ultimately we're here to benefit our society. And if we can't do that, what are we doing here as Silent Majority? We are looking for someone that is brave enough to come on and talk about their divorce, premature divorce. I like to call it gone in 60 seconds, excuse the pun. So if there are any brave guests that want to come on, either male or female, and talk about their divorce and what led to their divorce, we're more than happy to have you on. Apart from that, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.